guys, Josh from soccerreviewsforyou.com, bringing you my review of the new Nike VaporMax running shoe. Now obviously I run a soccer channel and this is not a shoe that I would recommend playing soccer in at all. Nonetheless, training off the field is pretty important and I go through my fair share of running shoes, Nike being a brand that I buy a lot of shoes from. So when I first saw the Nike VaporMax unveiled and when it was finally available to purchase, I got them right away, and I have to say it's a shoe that I've been pretty impressed with. The experience of the Nike VaporMax is definitely unlike anything else that I've tried before. I honestly expected it to be a very gimmicky product just based on how it looks and what have I experienced with Air Max running shoes in the past. But I can honestly say I'm impressed with what Nike has achieved here. And again, if you're looking for a unique running experience, which I'll get into more detail in this video, the Nike VaporMax is probably what you want to look at. So if you're not familiar with this shoe and you're seeing it here for the first time, this is the Nike VaporMax. And as you can see, it's really, really unusual. It's a Flyknit upper, which is honestly a pretty basic design from Nike based on what we've seen from some of their other models. But the outsole is very futuristic and quite frankly crazy looking. It's air bubbles front and back all the way through, giving you this truly walking on air or running on air type experience and feeling, which again, unlike anything else that I've ever tried. Now I'll say this with Nike's Air Max lineage. It's obviously something that is a very big part of the Nike brand. The Air Max 1, the Air Max 90, the 95, the 97, these are classic Air Max models that are pretty much always in constant production. At one point, they were their actual flagship running shoes, or some of the flagship running shoes. Not really intended for running anymore, more so for casual wear, but they still have their inline Air Max models that are basically the year. So you have 2014, 15, 16, 17 Air Max models, which I've had pretty much every single one from 2011 forward. And they're all shoes that I have personally tried to run in, but in all honesty, it's not the greatest running experience. I think you can get a better running shoe from Nike's own brand with their other models, based with foam cushioning, or just other brands in general. I've never thought that the Nike Air Max running shoes were great overall runners. Can you run in them? Absolutely, they'll get the job done, but they definitely would not be my first choice. It's really more of a gimmicky thing that looks really cool, as opposed to something that I think legitimately offers a good running experience, both in regards to comfort, flexibility, as well as just general impact protections and that kind of bouncy feedback that you would expect from something that is basically a full air bubble under your foot. With the VaporMax though, they've essentially completely changed how Air Max units are done. Normally, the Air Max unit isn't just straight up air. There's an internal reinforcement that obviously does add rigidity and takes away from the true air kind of bouncy sensation. You also have a foam base layer that acts as a reinforcement, and you generally have added rubber or some kind of plastic element on the bottom, again, to reinforce what would otherwise be a pretty unstable and not very good air bubble that just wouldn't work properly for the use that they're intending it for, a running shoe. So with this new VaporMax, essentially what they've developed is two separate pieces that create one entire sole. There is actually a split right here, almost right in the midfoot area. So you have the heel area and then you have your forefoot area, and it's made out of basically these ovals of straight up air. It's the best way to describe it, and it sits directly underneath a Flyknit upper. There's no foam carrier, there's no foam separation piece, and there's basically just rubber in the high wear zones on the bottom that are a part of the air bubble. So they're not really adding any rigidity at all. There's no bridges running through the actual air units themselves. You can see right through the outsole essentially. And also because of this design, because of no extra reinforcement, the shoe is remarkably flexible for an Air Max model. If you've ever had an Air Max, you know they're not the most flexible thing in the world. Also, another benefit of this is the weight. In a size 9.5 US, the pair that I have right here, these shoes weigh in at only 9 ounces, which is really, really light for a full Air Max shoe. Normally a regular Air Max model, a running model, the modern ones, they weigh in between 12 and 14 ounces. So these weigh significantly less and, dare I say, are relatively lightweight on your feet. So that's enough about the tech specs and I guess what's going on here. How do they actually feel to run in? And the simple answer to that question is they feel about the way that you would expect them to feel based on how the shoe looks. It really does have that bouncy kind of running on air kind of feeling to it. And if I was comparing it to anything else out there, it would be the shoe that I think a lot of people probably down below in the comments have already asked me to compare these to, and that is the Adidas Ultra Boost. this does have that kind of bouncy feeling to it when you actually run in them. Is it exactly like Boost Foam from Adidas? No, not necessarily. It's kind of almost difficult to compare the two because they are so drastically different. But what you're getting here is a feeling that does it does feel like you're kind of running on air. I guess the best way for me to describe it, that can kind of give you a little bit of a mental image in terms of how it actually feels, is that if you imagine a really big exercise ball that is a good quality one, so it's got thick rubber and then it's overinflated and it has that kind of firmness to it, that's kind of what this outsole feels like both in your hand as well as on feet. You can push the bubble in with your finger, and I'll show you some images of the shoe on my feet as well and how it does move when you walk around. But it really does have this kind of sink into the bubble when you step forcefully into the shoe or when you're actually running, and then that kind of bounce back, spring back to its original shape as you're kind of releasing some of that pressure. It's a really, really interesting sensation, and it's one that actually feels quite good. This is a very capable running shoe, and if you just like having that very bouncy, tons of impact protection sensation that you can't necessarily get from a standard foam setup, at least anything on offer from Nike, your only other option really in terms of something that compares would be Boost Foam from Adidas. Like I said, there really isn't anything else like this out there. It's a truly unique experience that, like I said, was much better than I was expecting. Again, based on how this looks and based on what I've experienced with Air Max products in the past, I expected this to be a very gimmicky thing, but this truly does feel like you're walking on air bubbles, which again, if anything, it just feels really, really cool. And that's kind of what I expect from some of these flagship models. They don't necessarily have to be hardcore serious running shoes, because I really don't think anybody who's hardcore serious into running is going to buy a VaporMax as their predominant running shoe. Could you do that? Absolutely. I think it's capable, but this is something that I think most people will be buying for casual wear or just to wear at the gym. If you want to run in them, you absolutely can do that. If you want to buy them as dedicated running shoes, I think they are perfectly capable. And again, I think the big thing here is that I'm just surprised at how good they actually are, because I honestly was expecting this to be very, very gimmicky. What's kind of interesting about this particular Air unit is that apparently, at least this is what it says on Nike's website, is that Nike is keeping the actual manufacturing of the Air unit in-house in Beaverton, Oregon at their headquarters. So apparently every single VaporMax Air unit, this entire bottom piece of the shoe, is being made in the USA at Nike headquarters in Beaverton, Oregon. And I think the main reasoning for that is because there's a lot of proprietary elements to the manufacturing process. At least I would assume that they want to kind of keep to themselves. They don't want anybody knocking it off, or they don't want anybody knowing how they're able to actually do this, because it is a pretty impressive technical achievement. We really haven't seen anything like this before, and like I said, it doesn't really feel like anything that we've seen before. So from a positive standpoint, very, very impressed with the Air Max outsole that they've implemented here. With that being said, it's not all positive. The Flyknit upper, it's okay. It's very, very simple in terms of what we've seen from Nike before with their running shoes, and really with what we've seen from Flyknit technology in general. It's a very basic Flyknit upper, your flywire cables attached to the lacing system through the midfoot, kind of an open area, kind of stretchy piece through the forefoot and toe box area, which is fine, no problem with that. You're gonna find a very thin layer of fused material. In soccer, it's referred to as Nike skin. Right in the forefoot area, it's basically just a thin polyurethane layer to protect the Flyknit, and you're also going to find it running through the midfoot and heel area, mainly where the actual Nike swoosh branding is positioned. The tongue itself is independent at the top and then attached towards the bottom there, so it is not a true one-piece construction, but kind of has that one-piece feel to it. And then it's just a low cut with kind of a collar right here. The internal lining material is like a synthetic suede material, but there's not a lot of actual material in there or padding. It's kind of just a firmer sensation, kind of like a Nike Flyknit Racer. The insole, pretty straightforward as well. It has a kind of an unusual slightly firmer base to it, but for the most part, it feels pretty normal on your feet. Doesn't take away from the actual feeling of the actual air under your feet. And then again, I think it's a cool looking shoe overall. Again, most people are going to be buying these as casual wear items anyways. In regards to the overall fit and sizing of the shoe, the fit is the one thing, again, that I'm personally not too crazy about. The one thing about the way this shoe fits is that there is a little bit of a pinch point, at least for me, in the forefoot area. I just felt like it was cut a little bit, not necessarily the forefoot, but right here where the forefoot and midfoot kind of meet. I found that it was a little bit more narrow than I perhaps wanted it to be. And again, this is based on my foot. I'm slightly flat-footed, so this is something that I will often experience with a lot of these kind of tighter fitting uppers that Nike puts out. And this is a tighter fitting upper, at least through the midfoot and heel area. So if that's something that you do have really, really wide feet, perhaps it's not going to be the best option for you, but that didn't really alter my experience in regards to having any kind of major discomfort. Basically, I put these on for the first time. I went for a 2-mile run. And again, aside from some slight discomfort at first, that kind of quickly went away once I got used to it. I really didn't have any issues with them. They're pretty much good to go out of the box, not a whole lot to break in. Really, really flexible, like I mentioned, which is super unusual for an Air Max shoe. And again, the running experience, or the experience of just walking around in these because of this Air Max outsole, I just think is really, really cool. So overall, I would say they run true to size. It is a snug fitting shoe overall. So if you have wide feet and you're just wearing them casually, you can maybe go a half size up and that might help you out. But for the most part, I'd say that they run true to size. I wear my usual size 9.5 US, which is what I normally wear in most running shoes. And the fit, at least in the length, is pretty much true to size. So that's pretty much it in regards to what there is to talk about in regards to performance and the experience of VaporMax. I would say that if you're looking for a really good pair of running shoes and you want a lot of underfoot cushioning, that kind of bouncy sensation, maybe something like the Ultra Boost would be a better option for you. But if you want something different, if you want something that's going to offer, I would argue, even a more unique experience to that of the Ultra Boost, certainly something that looks a lot more unique as well, the VaporMax is a really cool shoe to try out. And if you're just a shoe enthusiast in general, a bit of a tech nerd when it comes to new ideas and new technologies and footwear, I think this is a shoe that you should absolutely try to get your hands on, because again, the experience of wearing this is something that I really have never experienced before. It really is something truly unique, and kudos to Nike for making something that legitimately isn't a gimmick. It does offer the unique sensation that they're kind of marketing the shoe as having. So overall, I'm impressed with the VaporMax, much better than expected. Not what I would necessarily buy as a dedicated running shoe, but a shoe that I probably will buy again in another colorway, just because I think it's really, really fun to wear. So that's kind of the general consensus. Fun shoe to wear. Maybe not my choice as a running shoe, but definitely a shoe that I would recommend and definitely would buy again. So as far as getting a pair of these for yourself is concerned, there'll be a link down below in the description, the very first one. That'll take you to the review page on my website. You'll find pictures of this particular pair where you get to see the shoe in a little bit more detail, a little bit kind of up close clarity as well. This is the first colorway. It's the only colorway available as of right now as I'm uploading this video, but I'm sure more are coming. And in fact, I guarantee more are coming. Not sure if it'll ever be widely available, especially if they're only producing these at Nike headquarters, at least the actual bottoms themselves. I'm not sure how many they can make at one point, but I would say for the foreseeable future, they'll probably be somewhat limited. Nonetheless, as soon as they are readily available, you will find buy it now links on that review page, so be sure to go ahead and check it out. If you have any questions regarding this shoe, leave them down below in the comments and I'll do my best to answer all of your questions in regards to the VaporMax. If you did enjoy today's video, found it helpful and informative, be sure to support it with a like. Subscribe if you haven't already for daily videos on all the latest and greatest soccer gear. You can find all of my social media information linked down below in the description as well. And other than that, guys, hope you enjoyed today's video, and as always, thanks for watching.